Good evening, YouTube. I said I was going to do it again, and I've been doing about the modeling thing. I've been showing you guys articles from Darwinism, how I debunked their whole modeling the wisdom of Jesus article. I want you guys to focus on a couple things, so today we're going to speak on anchoring. On this video, we're going to do anchoring. This is one of their favorite things. NLP anchoring refers to the process of associating an internal response with some external or internal trigger, so that the response may be quickly and sometimes covertly re-accessed. Anchoring is a process that on the surface is similar to the conditioning techniques used by Pavlov. Here we go to Pavlov. To create a link in between the hearing of a bell and salivation in dogs, by associating the sound of a bell with the act of giving food to his dogs. Pavlov found he could eventually just ring the bell and the dogs would start salivating, even though no food was given. In the behavior stimulus response conditioning formula, however, the stimulus is always an environmental cue, and the response is always a specific behavioral action. The association is considered reflexive and not a matter of choice. Okay, when they anchor or trigger you into something, think of fear porn, guys. I've discussed this before. I want to start defining the subject matter. And I'm not going to go into detail. That's your guys' job to read further. I'm bringing this attention to you guys and showing you that the triggers are here. They just discussed Pavlovs Dogs. So let me bring up a tab for YouTube here, guys. And if I get any notifications while we're discussing this, I'm going to not even respond to them. But I want to bring up Pavlovs Dogs. Since he's using Pavlovs Dogs, that's a pretty good, interesting thing if I can get my YouTube to respond. And my laptop to respond. It's been acting funny the last 2 days as the weather's been acting up. And this is, I'm going to mirror this bullying news video.
Psychologists have come up with new views, not only of animal behavior, but of human nature as well. And these views all concern a process that we take for granted, learning, because we are all truly born to learn. Ironically, one of the most important figures in the study of learning, Ivan Pavlov, wasn't concerned with the subject at all, at least not at first. Pavlov, a noted Russian scientist, won the Nobel Prize for Physiology and Medicine in 1904. As this original footage shows, Pavlov was initially interested in digestion and the action of the salivary glands. By diverting the saliva of dogs into test tubes, he could precisely measure if and how much they salivated during digestion. When food was presented, the dogs salivated quickly, an inherited salivary reflex. But over repeated testings, a strange thing happened. The dogs salivated before contact with the food. Just the sight of the food was enough to stimulate their drooling. Then, just seeing the food dish, or even hearing the footsteps of Pavlov or his assistants, was enough to trigger this built-in reflex. What was going on to elicit this response? Pavlov decided to find out by systematically varying the stimuli and measuring the dog's reaction. Metronomes, lights, and bells were all used as stimuli, and they all worked as stand-ins for the food. What mattered was not the kind of stimulus that was used, but the fact that it reliably signaled that food was on the way.
Okay, you heard that. It doesn't matter, but food was on the way. So let's go back to anchoring. That's exactly what Pavlov did, is he anchored something mentally in the dog's mind through stimulus. It happens with us by triggers. Fear. They use fear as a key anchor point in programming you with NLP. Fear sets off anxiety, sets off other reactions, which are called the fight or flight reactions. This is what they use, and you get a chance, go through here. Let's go here to eye movements. This one I mentioned a little bit ago on the last video, but I want to get here again. Eye movements as indicators of specific cognitive processes. It's one of the most well-known, if controversial, discoveries of NLP, and potentially one of the most valuable. According to NLP, automatic unconscious eye movements or eye accessing cues often accompany particular thought processes, indicate the access and use of particular representational systems. The notion that eye movements might be related to internal representations was first suggested by William James in his book Principles of Psychology, 1890, and observing that some forms of micro movement always accompany thought. In attending to either an idea or sensation belonging to a particular sense sphere, the movement is the adjustment of the sense organs felt as it occurs. I cannot think in visual terms or example without feeling or fluctuating play of pressures, convergences, divergences, and accommodations in my eyeballs when I try to remember or reflect the movement in question. Feel like a sort of withdrawal from the outer world. As far as I can detect, these feelings are due to an actual rolling outward and upwards of the eyeballs. A rolling out and to the left, or rolling right and to the left. These are the eye movements part of it. Whoops. Went too far. Sorry. I went to go back one and my hand hit 20. But figure and ground. The distinctive between figure and ground relates to the fact that perception is relative rather than absolute. That is, our eyes, ears, skin, and brain register changes in relationships in the world around us rather than absolute quantities. People, for instance, often talk about an image being bright or distant, as if these qualities were a stable quality or thing associated with a particular image. The fact is, an image is neither inherently bright nor dim, colorful nor dull, distant nor close. It is distant, colorful, or bright compared to something else, such as its background or another image. All forms of perception juxtapose a figure with respect to some ground. A glass of water at room temperature, for example, may seem warm compared to the inside of a refrigerator, but cool compared to the inside of a sauna. What it ends up being, figure and ground, is function of our perceptual filters. A camera lens is a good example of a filter that alters our perception of figure and ground. You see, we go through here, right here, and let's look at their figure here. Yeah, it looks like two faces or a chalice, depending on what is figure, what is ground. You see how they use the background becomes the chalice, becomes the foreground. The figure is the background of the two faces. I've seen these kind of images played around on the web, but I just wanted to target those today. But let's go back to the Pavlovs Dogs thing. It's called conditioning. They use triggers to condition you. Hand movements are another one we'll get on. I want to save this one because this is actually a very good one. You see, I've got our blogs, our WordPress.com, Holy Fire Ministries. If you search it, it'll come up as that. Holy Fire Christian Ministries blog. You guys can get a chance, go over to WordPress.com, check that out. That's what I've gotten written so far on it. I just wanted you guys to touch on Pavlovs Dogs, because that's the whole trick of triggering you. Are they giving you a juicy bone, or are they giving you a rubber chicken? That's the best way to put it. With that, guys, I will talk more on it again with NLP. Peace. May the Lord watch over you always and keep your eyes open for these enemies at the gates. God bless.